like almost anyone who's taking a clear view about the relationship with his country and another country and has the great power, then inevitably it is destabilizing. Inevitably it is. And how destabilizing this will be depends on the reaction of Iran. I used to live there. I would say that there are plenty of factions that will come to bear and come to play over the next period. It won't be, whatever happens, this will be probably destabilizing for a generation.
Well, now let's return to our discussion about the conflict in the Middle East and the threat it poses to economies across the globe. The Times says discussions have begun in Whitehall about a potential support package if the war drags on, pushing up energy costs. Let's hear now from Lord Browne, former BP CEO, who's on the line. Good afternoon, Lord Browne.
Good afternoon.
Let's just start with the warning from the Qatar energy minister saying that the energy crisis triggered by this conflict could, and I quote, bring down the economies of the world. It sounds pretty apocalyptic. Is he right?
Well, I think the word is could. It depends on how long and how deep this interruption is. If the Straits of Hormuz were opened up somehow by American force or just the conflict stopping, immediately, then the impact would be much lower. I think oil and gas are very different. Oil is still moderated. I know the price has gone up, but it hasn't gone up beyond $100 yet. And part of that is because the supply interruption from the Straits of Hormuz is moderated by the stocks of oil. We hold about 60 days of stocks in the world being used to fill the gap.
Right. So that's really interesting. So it sounds to me like you're more along the lines of the boss of the International Energy Agency, who said there's plenty of oil in the markets. We have no oil shortage. There is a huge surplus. Would you sort of tell people to sort of calm down a bit, perhaps?
A little bit, but it does depend on how long this interruption takes place. For example, if it were 2 weeks of no oil going through the Straits of Hormuz, then we'd lose we'd lose 3 to 4 days of global stocks. And if history is a guide, that would mean the price would go up really quite significantly. So it all depends on how long this takes. And that will depend on the price of oil. Price of gas is very different. There are no stocks of gas, really. Right. So the moment you see an interruption, then all gas prices in the world go up, with the exception of one of the biggest suppliers, which is the United States, which has a price of gas which is really set quite independently.
Right.
Because there's a surplus of gas, so they're not interrupted. The rest of the world is. So,
and that's the holy grail, isn't it? Becoming more self-sufficient in our use of energy. So does this vindicate the Energy Secretary Ed Miliband's emphasis on renewables, getting to net zero, becoming more resilient in the face of future shocks? Or does it show the folly of failing to get every last drop out of the North Sea? Where do you stand on that argument?
So I think I just simply use what Winston Churchill said, which was, the only sense of security you get with energy is diversification. You need everything. Right. You need the ability to get oil, ability to get gas, renewables, nuclear, geothermal, and more exotic things in the future, converting vegetable oil into fuel and converting, waste biomass. So what's left over after corn is harvested into fuel. So all of these things are really important, and we need to balance it all.
Right. So your advice to Ed Miliband, if I may sort of summarise what you've just said, yes, go hell for leather on renewables and net zero, but reconsider that moratorium on getting the North Sea, the last drop out of the North Sea?
Yes, I mean, I think the North Sea, the North Sea has been a great success story. I've been involved since the very beginning in the 70s. And we used to think it would stop production in the year 2000. And look, it's still going on in 2025, but it is getting old. It really is getting old. And it would be amazing if, and very unlikely, if something important were discovered now. But eking out what we've got at the moment is very important. And since we all rely on hydrocarbons as well as non-fossil fuel sources, We need to balance both. We're not going to replace hydrocarbons quickly,
Right.
much as it would be a great idea to do that, but we have to be pragmatic and go with the flow. So
Right.
we need to do what we can on all bases.
More pragmatism from the government needed on that front.
Much.
Yeah. So let's just go back to the sort of international implications of this. This oil crisis, whether it's short term or long term, it strengthens Russia, doesn't it? Because the Kremlin has been going around today touting itself as a reliable supplier in the wake of the crisis. That's a problem, isn't it?
No, I mean, it is a statement of the obvious. I mean, I think that Russia will gain both for the price of oil and the price of gas. So that will add to their treasury. And they are uninterrupted at the moment, except by sanctions. So when you lift sanctions, as indeed has been done with the supply of oil from Russia to India, then they indeed will make more revenue. And they're they're one of the top three suppliers of oil in the world. The top three are the US, Russia, and Saudi Arabia. So it's but inevitable that our oil prices will help them a lot, as indeed they do for the United States. Oil and gas prices higher are beneficial for the United States. Not beneficial for everybody within the United States, but as a whole, it's beneficial.
Nevertheless, we're seeing how costly this war has been for the US taxpayer in just 6, 7 days. And given what he said before he took office, and now we've got war on multiple fronts. We've got the looming economic crisis, depending on, as you say, how long this goes on for. But how big a threat do you think Donald Trump is to global peace and prosperity?
Well, I think I'd say just like almost anyone who's taking a clear view about the relationship with his country and another country and has the great power, then inevitably it is destabilizing. Inevitably it is. And how destabilizing this will be depends on the reaction of Iran. I used to live there. I would say that there are plenty of factions that will come to bear and come to play over the next period. It won't be, whatever happens, this will be probably destabilizing for a generation.
I mean, Jared, that's astonishing, isn't it? We're talking about a very turbulent period for the world, and obviously that rebounds on people in the UK. Inevitably, the weakness in the UK economy was already an issue for the Chancellor. The ink's not even dry, pretty much, on her spring statement, and now government borrowing is rocketing at its fastest pace since the Liz Truss mini-budget crisis. You've been kind enough to give your advice to Ed Miliband. I wonder what your advice would be to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, as Whitehall weighs some kind of support package for British taxpayers hit by this energy price surge.
Well, like everything, in economics, it's a good idea to do not too much and not too little. You have to sort of pick it right, so you've got to go step by step. What's happening in the UK, of course, is gasoline petrol prices will rise, but so too will electricity prices. We use a lot of natural gas in making electricity in this country, and the natural gas prices have gone up a lot. In fact, they're now about 6 times as high as they are in the United States, which shows you the competitive and comparative disadvantage and the impact on individuals and households, which will be significant. So I think we need to see how it's all about timing, How long will this last and what happens next? Without too much of a period, you can probably put this back together again to an extent. There will be, of course, a transient impact.
But be
Longer
generous with a kind of support package for households. Is that you've got to sort of throw the kitchen sink at it, have you?
You may have to, but right now I'd say you probably don't have to, but you might need to if it lasts longer.
Be poised to act quickly if you need to. If I may, just while I've got you, one other story that we've been looking at today. Lord Mandelson has been released under investigation. You, of course, knew him well back in the day. Were you shocked to discover the extent of his links to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
I was very surprised, but no more surprised and no less surprised than everybody else who read it in the newspaper, as indeed I did. What happens next now, I guess, is in the hands of the investigating police force and the law.
Lord Mandelson, of course, denies wrongdoing and he's apologised for his association with Epstein. Have you spoken to him since these files emerged? Do you know how he'll be handling this latest and I suppose most humiliating fall from grace?
I spoke to him when he was relieved of his position as ambassador, but not since then.
Knowing him, though, how do you think he'll be handling this?
Well, I think anybody who's obviously been charged with all these or accused of these things, and people are avoiding and probably avoiding him, it must be feeling very, very lonely indeed and actually excluded. As they say in the old language, he's been sent to Coventry.
Do you have some sympathy for him over that?
I think it's very difficult when people exclude you. When I was outed in 2007, I actually believed that was what it would happen to me, but it turned out to be very different, and people were beginning to be, dare I say, more up to date in their attitude towards sexuality than I actually gave them credit for. And it was an amazing situation.
Well, and indeed, we've had a listener message in saying BP should bring back Lord Browne. So there you go. Lord Browne, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.